battle styles.
All I wanna do is get down, y'all.
Then back that ass up.
Yo, welcome back to the Slowpoke World. We are here. Battle Styles is finally legal. I'm very excited. I was not a fan of the team up through mid voltage meta, but I am a fan of this meta. There's plenty of decks for us to get our teeth stuck into, and I thought, what better way than to give you guys 50 of the best Battle Styles ready decks to go. Deck list will be in a spreadsheet in the description. You can just copy and paste them straight into TCGO. Let's not waste some time though. We've got 50 of these decks to get through. Let's get started. Right, so might as well kick it off in alphabetical order. We got ourselves ADPZ. ADPZ I don't think actually gains a great deal from Battle Styles, apart from Escape Rope. Escape Rope is obviously really good for this deck, letting you get as many uses out of Brave Blade, and also lets you push out VMAXs that Zacian otherwise can't KO. And if your opponent hasn't got anything that has over 260 health, they might not be able to stop you taking some silly amount of prizes. We know the ADP lets you take extra prize cards with that awesome GX attack auto creation, and you combo that with the Zacian to be a really good efficient attacker. And you got stuff like more wild as well, just to be cheeky and stuff like this. ADPZ doesn't gain a great deal, but we know it's not going anywhere. So yeah, ADPZ. I've actually got another ADPZ variant here for you, and this is one that could be interesting still. Persian ADPZ. Persian, when it gets KO'd, lets you search your... when your opponent knocks out one of your GX Pokemon, I should say, you can search your deck for 2 cards and put them in your hand. So essentially, when your opponent KOs Dialga, you get yourself a double computer search, basically that catwalk ability, which lets you just set up really well. Persian ADPZ hasn't really seen a great deal of play, but I don't see no reason why it hasn't, to be honest. So make sure you lock it up, lets you search out all those cool stuff like Great Catcher, Metal Sources, Boss, all that good stuff. And anytime you can give yourself double computer search in ADPZ, you're in for a good time, right? Alright, we've got ourselves up Eternatus. Now, I do feel as if Eternatus can definitely survive this Battle Styles onslaught, and I can see why you wouldn't believe me, but let's have a look why. So we can still play our weak guys to get around these big scary Urshifu VMAXs that we'll be knocking about. It's not the greatest of answers because especially the Rapid Strike can play the billowing fan to knock these off, but you still force them to have stuff. You never know. What I really do like about Eternatus though is this Cheryl supporter. Heal all damage from your evolution Pokemon if you do discard all energy attached to those Pokemon in that way. So what we can essentially do in combination with Weavile lets us move around our dark type energy, or dark energy I should say. We can turn this Eternatus VMAX into a 340 HP unkillable machine by just moving off the energy onto Poobah, for example, any basic Pokemon. And then we just heal, move them back. And I think against everything else, that's going to be perfectly fine. And I do still think you can cheese some Eternatus game, some Urshifu games just with that weak guard alone. We do play some peers to help search them out. Eternatus, I promise you guys, it's not going anywhere. So next one we've got to Sableye Flapple, and Sableye's one of those cards. Ever since it's been printed, I should say, in Sword and Shield, it seems to receive little buffs along the way. This buff, I think, could be the biggest one. However, though, with EXP Share, what this lets you do, you can put this on your benched Sableye V, and when your active gets knocked out, you can move a basic energy from the active to this Pokemon. This is going to let you chain your Sableyes a lot easier, because his attack Crazy Claws is not bad at all. 60 for each damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon. That is strong. That can reach into VMAXs very, very easily. How are we getting damage into play though? We got ourselves these Flapples. We can continuously loop these. Basically, when it's in play, you can use his ability Apple Drop. Put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon anywhere you like. So you can just stack these up, get them loads of these, and then come through with a big scary Sableye. Worth also noting that Hooper, basically, if Hooper hits anything, Sableye will eject them from the game. So you've always got Hooper to be a little 1-2 alley punch, as it were. We still got our turf patches, we've still got turf full stadium to keep us ticking over nicely. So I do think Sableye Flapple might be pretty good. Make sure you go check it out, baby. Cheers. Right, now we have an absolute myriad of Bronzong variants. In case you don't know what Bronzong does, it's got the ability Metal Transfer. It lets you move around metal energies attached to your Pokemon. We know this ability is always good. Kling Clang, Aromatise, Lunala to a certain extent. No, not really, because that was a stage 2. But either way, moving around energies is always strong. Now, this is like a sort of an ADP box type deck where we still want to use Ultra Creation, right? But then we can just sort of have our bevy of our alternate attackers, and a lot of which hit stuff for weakness, right? Like Inteleon hits the fire decks. Zacian is still a really good attacker, right? Ninetales hits the metal types. Yes, we've got a whole load of good attackers in their own right, and now we're taking extra prizes and we're doing extra damage. This could be rather strong. We've got our Cape of Toughness to hopefully keep those Pokemon knocking around a little bit longer than they should. We've always got Ditto to reuse them as well. So yeah, this, I think, it'd actually be really strong. Depending on what attackers you have, there's always going to be some good attackers in the format for sure. Obviously, Aurora Energies is providing those coloured costs, which you try and keep to a minimum, of course. But yeah, there's one of our first Bronzong decks, Bronzong ADP. Moving forward into another of our Bronzong decks, we've got ourselves Bronzong Mewtwo. This actually seems stupidly scary on paper, I'm not going to lie to you. We got ourselves Mewtwo. And what we're going to do, we've got a whole load of jet attackers, obviously. And because we've got loads of colourless energies knocking about, we can do stuff like Cross Division, Psychic Club, mostly. Venom Shot, remember that attack? I do. Ultra Creation still as well. So it reminds me a bit of like Galaxy Mewtwo back in the day, where you use Mewtwo to copy Ultra Creation. And then just get silly with it, you know, Massive Bloom, 180 for 2, really efficient, right? We can do as early as turn 2, by the way. And again, raw energy to provide those coloured costs, and then Bronzong to just help fulfill all the colourless. It actually seems pretty scary, not going to lie to you. Right, now I've seen this one knocking about, getting a little bit of hype. We've got ourselves Bronzong Togekiss. This actually seems pretty cool as well. Basically, Max Glide is going to help us tick over and get those raw energies a little bit easier, right? Because that Max Glide does 120. And lets you search out for 2 cards, put them in your hand. So Bronzong's going to help you stay alive. We can do stuff like Cheryl, again to her. So we can keep our Bronzong, our Togekiss alive for a lot longer than it realistically should be, in all honesty. Power Plant to help slow down our opponent. Telescopic Sight, what's that for? Well, this is actually really cool. Because we can keep those Aurora energies in play a lot longer than it realistically should, because we're not, you know, dying and Cheryl, you know. We can use some late game Kyogre amazing surges, because our opponent's going to just sit there try and tank these Max Glides, right? And eventually you can just come in with maybe 1 or 2 amazing surges and just get silly with it. This deck I saw on TCG Radio had some success in Japan, so you know, if you're already at your Togekiss, and they're not terribly expensive, and neither is Kyogre, this could be pretty fun. And if all else fails, you still get yourself 2 Zacians there. We all know they're pretty good. Right, another Bronzong variant, and I think this one could be the best in my humble opinion. It's basically Bronzong Lucmetal. We all know Lucmetal is really good, right? Full Metal Wall makes our metal type take 30 less damage, and we can remove all energy from our opponent's active Pokemon. So we still play 4 Zacians because they are a very good beat stick, right? To just, you know, bop your opponent on the head. But we actually have our late game super tank option in Corviknight VMAX, new Battle Stars card, 320 HP. With a lustrous body ability to prevent all effects of your opponent's abilities on this Pokemon. So just think about Zigzagoon, basically can't do any damage to you. And then GMAX Hurricane is basically Brave Blade. Worth noting though, Corviknight has a free retreat cost, so you can just, you know, let's say you do a GMAX Hurricane for 240, you can just retreat into your Zacian, move your energies up, and then you go follow up attack. Makes that sort of late game pivoting that Lucmetal can struggle with a little bit easier, right? And then everything else is just a super, you know, scary Lucmetal shell. This is going to be no joke, let me tell you. These Corviknights are only going to go up in value. Make sure you get those nice and early, yeah? Cheers! One of my favourite cards from Battle Stars, we've got ourselves Cherrim. Really cool ability. I love me stage 1 with cool abilities. They're always fun. So what this one lets you do, basically, you can attach as many grass energies to your non-rule box Pokemon. So, you know, so you can't be thinking Vs or GXs. Basically, 1 prize apart from Prison Stars, right? So we have a couple of Pokemon we're going to throw these to. This deck here, we're going to be throwing them to this Tapu Bulu. And if you ever play Tapu Bulu GX, this will be awfully familiar. Nature's Judgment does, for free energy, you do 80 plus 80 if you want to discard all energy from this Pokemon. If you do, you do an extra 80, so 160 in total. We played Head Across to help ourselves with any ADPs that may be knocking about. But yeah, which is 9 GX is going to be doing 160, you know, hopefully turn after turn after turn after turn. I don't know how good it's going to be, but it's going to be a great budget deck, let me tell you. Tapu Bulu Cherrim. There's one more Cherrim deck. Let's keep it moving to it. So if 160 doesn't sound like enough damage for you, we can power those energies onto Maractus. So Maractus is a basic Pokemon with powerful needles for 2 energy. Flip a coin for each energy attached, do 60 for each head. So if you hit 4 heads, how much are we doing? 6, 12, 180, 240. 240! Quick maths on the head there. On my head. Hey, pun fully intended. So again, if you're being a bit more adventurous, again, Maractuses aren't going to be expensive. This shell is essentially the same as the Tapu Bulu one, except Twin Energy can fulfill. If you have 2 energy attached, you get to flip 2 for each Twin Energy. So you know, I guess this has a lot more higher ramp, and a lot more potential upside. But then also, if you flip all tails, you know, you are sort of twiddling your thumbs. Worth noting, no Glimmer Tangle does let you reflip all coins associated with attacks once. So let's say you had 5 energy attached and you only flip 1 head and you had Glimmer Tangle in play, you can opt to use Glimmer Tangle, reflip those coins, and hopefully get more than 1. So yeah, Cherrim, it's going to be a good card, I promise. Might not be the best now, but it will be for sure. Okay, I actually forgot about this Eternatus variant earlier, so I'm going to quickly double back to it now. Basically, Battle Styles introduced the new Crobat line, right? And I guess Crobats and Eternatus always seem to go together. But what these essentially do, as you evolve up, you get to draw some cards, right? So you start off with Zubat with that pretty cool knitwork artwork, right? You evolve into that big mouth Golbat. And when you do, you basically get to draw 2 cards, right? That's pretty cool. And then when you evolve into Crobat, you also get 3 retreat, which is always nice. We love that. But you also get to draw 3 cards. So, you know, if you're playing like stuff like Scoop Up Nets, you can sort of just, you know, tutor out cards for the whole game. And maybe I should be putting Scoop Up Nets in there, but for now, I don't think you need them. So basically, what this is trying to do is limit the amount of Vs and VMAXs that are knocking about for the most part, right? Because you don't want to be slamming down too many Crobats. So again, I don't know if this is going to be really great, but it is potentially a new potential budget way, maybe, to play Eternatus. I will run the numbers and see how many packs this costs to build. But yeah, I mean, forcing your opponent to go through 340 HP VMAXs could be hard for them. You never know. Alright, so next up we got ourselves the big scary Centiskorch, one of the tier 1 decks coming into Battle Styles. Now I actually think it gets outclassed heavily by Victini VMAX, but there are some reasons to still play it. Basically, Gmax and Inferno does 40 for each 5 energy attached, right? So this could endless damage cap essentially. It can really put the hurt in on some VMAX decks if left unchecked. It basically puts the hurt on anything. Like, let's not beat around the bush about it. So we got Volcanions who like slam energies down nice and early if you go in second. We got ourselves Reshizard to be really effective against tag teams. Quarmran is basically just one of my favorite cards in the format. Actually just clean up the Denays and stuff like this. Giratina is really cool because actually rip off these special energies like these Urshifu decks, which we will get to, we'll be having on them for sure. And yeah, and it's just pretty much the same shell. We got Escape Rope. It's going to be really important in Welder decks because, you know, if our opponent are playing Rapid Strike and they slam that Imperil on the active turn 1, you're a bit in trouble. So Escape Rope is like a soft counter to that. I don't know how it's going to be, but you know, I'm not really a Welder player anyway. But anyway, that's Centiskorch. Let's keep it moving to some more fire decks, shall we? Okay, moving on to my favourite fire type VMAX for sure. We've got ourselves Victini VMAX. What a scary geezer, let me tell you. This guy is the ultimate cheap prize taker, let me tell you this. So he's got a 3-turn HP VMAX Pokemon with 2 attacks, Spreading Flames, attach up to 3 5 energy cards from discard part of your Pokemon any way you like. That's pretty cool. We got Max Victory for 2 energy. Look how efficient we are here. 2 energy, which we don't really have to play in Welder if we don't want to. We do 100 plus 120 if our opponent's active is a Pokemon V. 220 damage for 2 energy. That's wild, right? That's crazy. So we play a Reshizard just to help us against tag teams. So obviously tag teams aren't Vs, unfortunately, so we'll be doing a crisp 100 against them. But also worth noting, against tag teams, if they load up our energies, you can essentially use this energy burst Victini, right? Because you get the cool V, evolving V from Sword and Shield, which has the same Spreading Flames attack, but also has Energy Burst, which does 30 times each energy attached to both active Pokemon. That's pretty cool. And yeah, outside this is like the most sort of 4 walls conservative way to play Victini, I feel, you know, just a standard Jirachi net combo. Worth noting though, because we only have a 2 energy attack cost, we can actually play bosses always in a high count, which is something a lot of world decks can't do. So yeah, keep that in mind. But I've got a couple more Victini decks for you, let's have a look at them. Okay, I was speaking about Victini being able to play boss earlier, but if you don't actually want to play boss for whatever reason, you can play Ninetales, 9 Temptations. Remember this card? You can discard 2 fire energies from your hand. If you do, you essentially get a boss's orders. So if our opponent's trying to get clever with it and not throw up throw up V Pokemon, I should say, we can just Ninetales them straight into the active and bring up those V Pokemon. But the deck is essentially the same. Now you got yourself Reshizard type against tag teams. We still play boss's orders, only a 2 count though. And everything else is the same. I've got one more bit more spicy Victini deck for you though. Let's keep moving to that one, shall we? Alright, so this version here is a Slowpoke World Special, let me tell you. So we're doing 220 damage, right, with our max Victory. Doesn't quite one-shot VMAX. How can we push it up there? Now, I originally thought about using Volcarona GX, but that's probably a little bit too slow, right? So we're opting for Giant Bomb. Now, this could get a little bit dangerous, right? So what Giant Bomb does, it's a tool card that lasts for 1 turn, but if your opponent hits into the Pokemon it's attached to and does 180 damage or more, they take back 10 damage counters. So now we're looking at 320 foot damage from this max Victory, right, if they hit into the Giant Bomb. And if you're good at your math, that's 320 damage in total. That would one-shot a lot of VMAXs in format. That's what I'm thinking. If they decide to boss around the Giant Bomb and like hit into Volcanions or maybe even some 2 prizes on your bench, that's also fine because they're not damaging this Victini, and it will be the Victini that wins you the game. So yeah, I have a little bit more to do with this deck for sure, but this could be my favorite way to play it because Giant Bombs are just crazy on VMAX, and I haven't found the right ones playing with yet. Maybe it's this one, we don't know. Alright, let's keep moving with some of those Urshifu decks now. I've been keeping you waiting long enough. So, it's no secret if you've been around the channel for a long time that a single strike Urshifu is my favourite. I love a lot of things about this card. Beatdown. A lot of other decks wouldn't be very impactful, but I tell you, here it is. 3/400 sets up your G-Max 1 blow very nicely, which is for 4 energy. It seems costly, but we have ways to pay now, don't worry. There's 270 damage and discard all energy from this Pokemon. If you do, this attack's damage goes through all effects on your opponent's active. So you can carry Decidueye. It's a very costly way, but we can do it, right? So what are you thinking? 270, sure, that's not very good. What are we playing this for? Boom, have a look. Single Strike Energy, special energy card that can only be attached to Single Strike Pokemon. When it does, it provides a fighting or a dark. And it's essentially a strong energy. You get an extra 20 damage for each one attached. If you have 3 of these attached, you're doing an extra 60. So you can see where we're going now. We can start pushing this G-Max 1 blow into one-shots. And anytime you can one-shot VMAX, you have to take the card seriously. So, this guy can one-shot. But we're still thinking, Shay, how are we actually getting these attached and that's still 4 energy? How are we doing that? Houndoom is a stage 1 Pokemon with 130 HP. The single strike raw ability, basically, once during your turn, you can search your deck for a single strike card, attach it to a single strike Pokemon, and put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. So that's how we can flood. We're going to try and get like 2-3 Houndooms into play, build up to this G-Max 1 blow, and you know, just dink our opponent's Pokemon really. So like, let's say we hit their VMAX with a beatdown. This G-Max 1 blow now will one-shot regardless of how many strong energies you have attached, right? But it doesn't end there. We also have this incredible single strike scroll, which when it's attached to a single strike Pokemon, it gives that single strike Pokemon this attack, Furious Anger, which might be one of the best attack names in the game right now. 10+10 for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So essentially, if they hit into your VMAX, right, and you hit them with a scroll back, let's say they do 100 damage to you, right, and you hit them with a scroll. The amount of pressure this single strike Urshifu VMAX does now is insane. Like, it can take 5-6 foils on its own, fellas, let me tell you. So this is like the most standard bare bones. Worth noting, we play the Jirachi to remove our psychic weakness. So yeah, this is like the most standard single strike deck. I have one other one which is a bit more bonkers, and it's probably the one I'll be playing for sure. So yeah, here's the other way I'll be playing it for sure. So this one. Now, what I didn't like about the other one, right, is that you're really reliant on these Houndooms and our opponent can just target them down, right? So, and if you haven't got 2 or 3 out, it's kind of hard to chain the G-Max 1 blow, which is the reason why we're playing this deck, right? If we can chain one-shots with this, we will win. That simple. So, this build is sort of more geared towards trying to do that 1 blow twice in 2 turns and win the game in back-to-back turns, right? So, you're probably thinking, Shay, how are we doing that? Let's not forget about Rose now, fellas. VMAX, it's a support, I should say, which lets you attach 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to one of your VMAX. If you do, though, you have to discard your hands. That's a little bit costly, right? But, you know, it's worth noting that if you can, you can win the game just with this 1 blow twice, right? Also worth noting, I forgot to mention, this single strike Urshifu V is incredible. This laser focus attack is insane. Lets you search your deck for 2 fighting energies and attach them to this Pokemon. So basically, if you're getting second, you can have 3 energies, right? Then just evolve and then G-Max 1 blow. Pretty nutty. So yeah, this Rose version is a little bit geared towards trying to do this 1 blow many more times, a lot faster. We play Dojo in this version, right? So we can actually reach those VMAX numbers a lot easier, provided we're behind on prizes, which I'm not going to lie, it's a bit more of a setup that we probably are. Kricketune is a new Battle Styles Pokemon though, which is going to help us alleviate having to discard our hand. Basically, Kricketune V, it's the same as Sun and Moon based Oranguru in the sense that its ability lets you draw to have 3 cards in your hand. So let's say we use Rose, Cricketings on our bench, we now have 3 cards in our hand. However, if it's in the active spot though, we actually get to draw till we have 4 cards in our hand. That's pretty cool. So yeah, that is this version. We still play our Houndoums as a 3-3, but we're not so reliant on them because we can just Rose, and we still have our Scrolls. Earn of Vitality lets us put 2 single strike energy cards from our discard pile back into our deck, so we can just keep looping them over and over again. Super strong, super fun. I can't wait to try it, let me tell you. Single strike Urshifu VMAX, baby. Jeez! Right, so we all know the big hype, scary decks from this format are mostly the Rapid Strike decks. So I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, this card is pretty insane. Just look at it. Number one, it looks awesome. But it gets more awesome the more we look at it. So it's a Rapid Strike card. There's going to be a whole bevy of Rapid Strike support, similar to the Single Strike support as well, right? So, Gale Thrust, for 1 energy, you do 30 plus 120 if this Pokemon moved to the active spot this turn. So, switches, escape ropes, retreat into a new one. 150 for 1 is incredible value. If you was playing when Glizzapod GX was deck, that came second at Worlds, and that had a similar. But I only did 120. This does 150. 150 is a good number, but it doesn't quite 2-shot VMAXs, and which is a bit annoying, but I guess it's for balancing reasons, it probably doesn't. GMAX Rapid Flow, however, again, is equally as bonkers, right? So for fighting colorless, discard all energy from this Pokemon. If you do 120 snipe in 2 places. Did you hear me laughing? That is silly. 120 snipe in 2 places. With some modifications, this can start to really put pressure on opponent's board. If a tag team's got hit with a Gale Thrust, they now can get KO'd with a GMAX Rapid Flow or else on the bench. With enough mods, you can actually start to get into the range where you're KOing Dedenes and Crobats, and we do have builds that are more suited towards that game style strategy. This is like an all-house, 4 corners kind of build, where we play the Inteleon V, which is another Rapid Strike Pokemon. This is really good for letting us hit water weakness. Because what this does, it shuts off Jirachis when it's in the active. Because when it's in the active spot, your opponent's Pokemon, basic Pokemon that don't have rule boxes, have no ability. It's a really silly ability, and I'm not really happy about it, but it is what it is. So it turns off stuff like Jirachi and stuff like this. Swirling Slice for 1 water, 2 colorless does 130, and you can move an energy attached from this Pokemon to on your bench. So not really the greatest attacks, but in combination with Gale Thrust and moving away the energies, we see this sort of attack with Y Cyclone from your Vettel EX in the past. Really cool. I have Octillery, stage 1 Pokemon, which lets you, once on your turn, you can search your deck for 1 Rapid Strike card, put it into your hand. They can only use 1 of these, even if you've got 2 out, so that's worth noting. What this lets you do is just essentially tick yourself over and search stuff like this. Rapid Strike energy can only be attached to a Rapid Strike card, but if it is, a Pokemon I should say, if it is, it provides 2 and any combination of water and fighting energy. So now you can see how silly this can start to get. So we can fulfill Swirling Slice with 1 of the Rapid Strike energies and a normal basic energy. It means we can attach going first, right? We can Gale Thrust, and then next turn we just attach a basic energy again to our GMAX Rapid Flow. And Octillery searches for it as well. Pretty cool. We play the Jirachi GX as we did in the Single Strike here to remove our Psychic weakness. And we still play some other cool stuff as well, like Fan of Waves, which is basically an enhanced hammer. But it puts a special energy attached from your opponent's Pokemon to the bottom of the deck. It doesn't discard it, puts it to the bottom. Rapid Strike card, though, so you can search that with Octillery. Whew. So we got loads of switches and escape ropes, so we can, activate Gale Thrust as much as possible. Tower of Water is our stadium, which means all your Rapid Strike Pokemon have 2 colorless less on their retreat cost. Karate belts, we got the Rapid Strike Scroll, which for fighting colorless, you do 30 to all your opponent's Pokemon. And this is how we can try and reach into those Dedenes. If we do Matchless Storm twice, we can KO Crobat and we can KO Dedenne with GMAX Rapid Flow. It's really scary. So yeah, this is the sort of boxy, cover yourself kind of variant. We have a few more though. Let's keep it moving to that. Right, so we've got ourselves this sort of aggressive version. This one's a lot more geared towards trying to really put pressure on our opponent's bench sitters, so Dedennes and Crobats. Zigzagoon's the first way you can do that. When you bench them, you can put 1 damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. Play our own Mew. We also play Telescopic Sight. Oh man, I tell you, this Rapid Strike that could get a little bit silly. Basically, Telescopic Sight lets you do, right, you do 30 more damage to your opponent's benched V and GX. So Now all of a sudden, VMAX Rapid Flow is doing 150, Zigzagoon 160. So we play a couple scoop up nets so we can reuse the Zigzagoon, and yeah, this is actually like an incredibly scary deck for sure. We got a capture energy as well, so we can bring out our Octillery, which we are still playing obviously. So yeah, this is like the sort of heavy hitting bench version. We have a couple more variants though. Let's keep moving to them. Now a lot of people are hyping this Rapid Strike Dragapult deck. Let's have a look why. So Dragapult VMAX, remember this card? VMAX Pokemon 320 HP with 2 attacks, 1 for 60 shred, goes through all effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. That's pretty handy. So you can actually hit a Dragapult with this. And then Max Platinum for 2 Psychics to 130, and you can put 5 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon any way you like. So again, we're sort of really heavy hitting the bench, I should say, with this. Again, and then we can just come in late game with this VMAX Rapid Flow and really clean up now. You know, clean up on aisle 3, baby. Urshifu VMAX is there to clean up. Gale Force is still there as well. And what this also lets you do is hit for Psychic in the mirror matches against other Psychic weak decks, obviously. And yeah, it's just a bit worrying. Now, the thing that scares me about this deck, though, is that you're really slow energy attachments-wise. But Karate Belts help alleviate that. So basically, your early game would just Dragapult, and your late game can be like, or mid to late game can be, you know, Karate Belt into Rapid Strike Energy Urshifu VMAXs. So yeah, there's that version. We still got some more though, believe it or not. Oh my lord, I think 2 more, maybe 2 more. Right, so next up we've got everyone's favorite trading cards, Urshifu Hammers. Now the problem is, as much as it hates me to suggest hammers, it kind of makes sense in a deck where you can attack for 1 energy, and you can cheat energy attachments with your Rapid Strike energies. Hammers does make a lot of sense because your maintenance is so low, you can afford to jam 4 hammers and not really hurt your consistency, right? So there's not really a lot to talk about here. We've got a couple shovels in this build. We got hammers. We got some scroll of swirls, so we can try, you know, get some damage on those opponents, the Denes and Crobats. But yeah, this is pretty much just Urshifu, hammers, Octillery. About it. We've got 2 more versions to go. Okay, I tell you, there's actually 3 more versions to go. This card is insanely good. So this is like a Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX Welder Mewtwo-esque kind of build. Now this sounds really complicated on paper, but Joe did a really good job explaining it. Go check the tier style video if you haven't seen that already. We go through pretty much every deck we've covered here in a bit more detail. So our turn 1 with this deck is going to ideally be a swirling slice with Empoleon. This is a couple things. This lets you do a little bit of chip damage, which is nice, but it also lets you move energies away onto either a Mewtwo or onto Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. Now, we're going to fulfill that with Welders and our Rapid Strike energy, of course. Now, this is where it gets a little bit silly. So this says discard all energy from this Pokemon if you do, you know, do the shenanigans. What the Welder lets you do, though, is actually chain VMAX Rapid Flows, which is absolutely diabolical, right? Because let's say you discard all the energy, right, which should be, you know, Rapid Strike energy plus 1 fire. You can just Welder off another fire and then attach another Rapid Strike energy, right? And go back in for a Rapid Flow. Mewtwo covers Psychic weak stuff really well, whilst letting you copy stuff like Flareon GX to get back all your fire energies, right, with the Power Burner GX. You've still got Resh's Eye that's good against tag teams, always has been, always will be. Heatran for a little, you know, Bum Rush Hot Burn, if, you know, it's never a bad card to have, is it really, let's be honest. And then outside of that, this is general fire support, Welders, you know, Fire Crystal, Giant Hearth. Again, pretty complicated deck, but super high skill ceiling and rewards, I think, for sure. Okay, so next up, we're going to partner our VMAX Rapid Flow bench shenanigans with an equally shenanigans bench hitter here with Orbeetle VMAX. Eerie Beam. When this Pokemon's inactive, you can put 1 damage count on all your opponent's Pokemon, alright? So, here's the idea. Again, you know, this is Dene, we have an extra 30 damage so we can carry Dene, right? Because VMAX Rapid Flow does 120. Oh no, an extra 40, I should say. So, if we can weave in 4 Eerie Beams, our VMAX Rapid Flow can take 2 prizes on 2 bench Denes. Or, you know, if we can weave in 6 Eerie Beams, we can start carrying Crobats. And let me tell you, it sounds like a lot, but with Orbeetle getting stuff like switches and escape ropes now, I promise you it's not that hard. We also have Scroll of Swirls, you know, do that extra 30 everywhere to just... bench Pokemon aren't going to be safe, let me tell you. Make sure you play a Mew in the Battle Styles meta, let me tell you. So, like I said, this is Orbeetle Urshifu, okay? One good thing about this deck is Orbeetle always struggle to have like a sort of a good attacker in the game, because GMAX Wave is okay at best. But now you can weave in like 2 or 3 Eerie Beams, either end the turn then with a Gale Force for 150, which is now like 180, 190, or some crazy GMAX Rapid Flows. And this deck actually might be the first where I play Rapid Strike, just because it seems so fun to me, baby. I think we've got one more Rapid Strike deck. Right, they're probably thinking me, Shay, how on earth does Zacian V and Urshifu Rapid Strike go together? And you know what? I don't know until Joe told me the other day. So he said Zacian is a really good card. We all know this. What Zacian can struggle with, I should say, is when if it gets KO'd and you have to find now 2 sources, or try and flip heads on some turbo patches. It's not really a good deal. So what this lets you do is shore up those turns where you can't Brave Blade, or even sometimes you can't Brave Blade twice because you can't move around the active. You can just weave in a little Gale Force or 2, you know what I mean? So this is Zacian Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. Basically, putting 2 ridiculously efficient attackers together in the same deck, and it could be pretty good. So Karate Belts, again, really cool for letting you get that Gale Force for essentially free, which is silly. And then between the 2, I reckon you can close out a lot of games. Super strong version for sure. I mean, all these versions are going to be strong. So again, if you can get these Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAXs, you got to have a bevy of decks to play, let me tell you. Okay, next up we got ourselves Venasaur VMAX. Now, ignore that's on the screen. Basically, Venasaur VMAX is 30 plus 30 for each grass energy attached to all your Pokemon. Alright, so here's the idea. We're going to use good old trusty Rowegg to cheat ourselves Rillaboom into play. Rillaboom lets you, once your turn attach 2 grass energies from your deck to your Pokemon any way you like. Really cool ability, right? Always has been, always will be. So, the idea is here, I'm going to just pile on a load of grass energies and use stuff like Cheryl, and use stuff like Buff Padding, and use stuff like Rose to accelerate more as well. And let this Venusaur start doing damage that it really shouldn't be doing, and let it stick around for turns where it has no right to be sticking around. We have Cricket Soon to help fill our hand back up after our Rose. If we can actually attack with it as well, but 3 for 160 on a coin flip doesn't seem too great to me. But yeah, this card actually isn't out yet until a promo box comes out. But yeah, worth noting, if you're a Rillaboom player and you're not feeling Rillaboom VMAX for whatever reason, try this one out. Could be pretty cool. Now, who remembers Tool Drop Whimsicott? This had a whole lot of success, in the sort of November-ish time. It sort of died off. But now, because, you've seen those like 7 Urshifu decks I've just showed you, this Whimsicott hits them for weakness. How cool is that? So, Flying Fury does 40 for each tool you discarded from your Pokemon. You can discard as many as you like. 10 plus 40, I should say. So, here's the idea. We're just going to throw a load of tools. We use stuff like Silvally to draw our hand up and just detonate as much as we can. Worth noting that the Silvally and the Dedenates aren't as detrimental, or Oricorio in this deck, because we play a high count of Island Charm Amulet to where they're only worth 1 price if they get knocked out, right? That's pretty cool. So yeah, also worth noting as well, Level Ball, people. Level Ball gets a reprint. I've gone so far about saying this, but yeah, it gets a reprint. So Whimsicott you can search that for free, right? Or your free own and stuff like this. So could be time to dust off those Whimsicotts if you still got them, fellas. Jeez. Right, now Cinderace from Sword and Shield is another deck that I think is going to really benefit greatly from having level balling format. Cinderace is actually a really cool card. Stage 2 Pokemon, 170 HP with the awesome ability Libero. Basically, when this Pokemon moves from the bench to the active spot, you can search your discard pile for 2 fire energies and attach them to this Pokemon. So basically, if you play Hot Potato in the active, you can get energies attached. Flare Striker then does 3 for 190, discard 2 energies from this Pokemon. 190 is a really cool number, right? Lets you 2-shot everything and 1-shots the Dedenates and Crobats as well. Now, why does this deck benefit from having level balling format? Because this deck plays a high count of Tinchino, which now you can search for free. Lets you discard 1 card from your hand if you do, draw 2 cards. Same as trade from Zoroark, right? So here's the idea. You basically bin 2 energies, and then what you can essentially do, as long as you've got 1 to attach for turn, you can rotate between Libero, Cinderaces, right? And never have to worry about energy again. So, how do we do this? Recycle energy is the best way. So basically, when it gets discarded, it goes straight back to your hand. So here's the idea. We have 2 fire energies and a recycle. When we do our Flare Striker, we discard the recycle energy, and then our Cinderace will have 1 fire left. Now, if that Cinderace survives, we just pay retreat, go into the next one, all that good stuff, activate a new Libero, and I'll recycle energy from the hand. If this Cinderace dies for whatever reason, we can then promote an skateboarded Mimikyu, or a skateboarded Raboot, or a skateboarded Cinccino, and then we just evolve, attach the recycle to our new one, right? And then when this new one hits the active, fire from a discard pile, and we get our Flare Striker. We play some Snorlaxes for the early game to help us draw up until I have 7 cards in our hand. And we play Rotom Phone to just help keep us consistent, because we are a stage 2 deck. But let me tell you, once you get 2 Cinderaces out there, you are taking prizes. Let me tell you, this deck is really fun, and it's going to be a real contender in the Sword and Shield Armor format, let me tell you this. But right now, it's also pretty good. Cinderace. Right, now I haven't really got a whole lot to talk about with this deck because it's pretty boring, but let's have a look at it. So we've got ourselves a Decidueye, stage 2 Pokemon. Basically, it's immune to GXs and V damage, right? Splitting Arrow does 2 for 90 and then 20 sniping 2 places. Like, once it's out, a lot of decks can't really deal with it, right? That's the idea. We pair it then with Obstagoon. So against other stuff that can get through, like Volcanion and World decks, for example, they can't get through this. What this does basically is obstruct for 2 energy, do 90 damage, and you can't be hit by basics during your next turn. And that is literally the deck. Like, all you want to do basically is get the Decidueye out in some matchups, KO your opponent's threat with obstruct, and you can go back into the Decidueye and you're happy as Larry. Not really a whole lot to talk about this deck. If you play Destigoons, you know about Destigoons. It hasn't really got too much from Battle Styles, but you don't want to forget about it, that's for sure. Now, worth noting, now that Urshifu is knocking about and will be a big part of the meta, at least in my opinion, it might be time to actually relook at Dragapult VMAX as its own deck. Now, there's actually a couple more archetypes that I reckon you can play Dragapult, but I've only gone for this one so far. Now, we know what Dragapult does already, right? Max Phantom 2 for 130, put 5 damage counts on your opponent's Pokemon anyway, like. So we're going to play this, I should say. There's a whole ton of energy in our baby. So we've got ourselves 4 Crushing Hammers just to be an irritant. We've also got ourselves Giratina. Dimension Breach ability. When you bench him, you can discard special energies from your opponent's active. That's pretty cool. We've got, we've got our Nets, we've got our Jirachis, we've got our Zigzagoons as well, and a 2 count. Worth noting, just to increase that bolster that bench damage. So yeah, and we got ourselves Horror Energy just to help, increase our damage output. So again, this could be time to dig those Dragapults back out of your deck. Maybe not with Urshifu, but maybe on their own. If you like this, you got stuff like Lycanroc, and you got stuff like a Fable you could also play. But for now, this is just a straight Dragapult deck. Now, a bit of a fan favorite here. If everyone remembers Next Destiny's Durant, I think it was. That card was crazy good. This, I don't think is as good, but it could have potential still. Let's have a look. Durant, 90 HP Pokemon with a Devourer attack. For 2 energy, for each Durant in play, you can discard the top card of your opponent's deck. Pretty fun. So if you have 4 Durants out, you discard 4 basically, right? So the problems with this though, when your Durants get knocked out, number 1, you have to reload them, and number 2, you have to attach your twin energy. Now, we might have a little way of overcoming those weaknesses, and that's with using the Shuckle. Shuckle is a basic Pokemon 70 HP with the Deck Distiller attack. Flip a coin until you get tails for each head. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck. So between these 2 attacks, basically, we're going to hope to just deck out our opponent. Do you think it's terribly competitive? I'm not 100% sure. We got ourselves Intrepid Sword, a Zacian, just so we can, Intrepid Sword if we can't attack, obviously get 3 cards in our hand. Now, it might be worth noting this gives up 2 prizes, and I feel as if having this in the deck could accelerate your opponent's win. So you might want to change this for Munchlax, potentially. But, for now, we've got this. We've got ourselves Hammers to try and slow our opponent down. We've got ourselves Dollar as well, so we can, throw Dollar in the active and then, Zacian behind it. We've got ourselves the Dimension Breach Giratina that I mentioned before. And then we've got ourselves the Mew as well to cover our bench damage. Because the G-Max rapidly flowed would tear this deck apart, let me tell you. But, Curse Shovel as well, worth noting. When this, it's a tool card, when it's attached to a Pokemon, if it gets knocked out, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. So I feel as if it's going to be one of those discarding decks where it's not going to be overly strong, but it might just be good enough to win some games. So if you want something fun, go check out Durant, okay? Right, so here's one of my favourite decks in Golurk, and Golurk is just super fun, and it's a really big beneficiary from having Level Wall back in the format. So let's have a look at what Golurk does. Stage 1 Pokemon, 140 HP with their Fist of Antiquity attack, which does 2 for 160, but you can't have any supporters in your discard pile. If you do this attack, it does nothing. So we're 2-shotting pretty much everything, including VMAXs, right? So we have to just make sure we can see cards, right? So we can, you know, not have to worry about supporters. And I tell you what, Shinsino's lets you do that. You know, the make the ability, the trade. Overcore lets you do that. And then, you know, Slam and Tantanese is also pretty good at drawing cards, right? So we also play Rotom to help, you know, tutor out some consistency problems, which lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put one to the top, shuffle the rest back in. So basically, our make do's now has, you can essentially look at the top 5 before you do it, right? And hopefully, you know, you can find yourself twin energies, help with finding yourself some triple acceleration energies, and giant bombs as well. So our opponent takes back 10 damage counters if they hit us for over 180 damage. So I love playing Go Lurk. It's always fun. You know, Ghost, leave it up, fellas. It's gonna be, you're gonna be in for a fun time for sure. Let me tell you. So if you've been playing a while, you remember Ancient Trait, Ancient Origins, Gyarados, not Gyarados, Metagross, I should say. And this indeed has the same attack. 10 for DC, I should say, twin energy. You do 10 for each card in your hand. So we have to just basically get like bare cards in our hand and slap our opponent. So we're going to use Salazzle to do that. Roast Reveal, once you're in your turn before you attack, you may discard a fire energy from your hand. If you do, draw 3 cards. So here's the idea. We're just going to bum rush many Salazzles and then end the turn with hand kinesis and hopefully 2-shot our opponent. Problem with this though, you know, our opponent can play stuff like Marnies and Reset Stamp, which is pretty scary, but worth noting with a super high fire energy count, right? I'm just going to quickly go a little bit like this. With a super high fire energy count, now you can just keep Roast Revealing. And I tell you, Marnie is not actually the end of the world. You know, we play so many Fire Crystals and Brot Scripts and Roller Skaters as well, to where our hand should be sitting pretty comfortably about 15 for the whole game, so... this is definitely a fun deck for sure. Yeah, you might have those wonder turns where you one-shot a VMAX. It could happen, so... Indeedee V. Well, not Indeedee V, just Indeedee. Go give it a try, baby. Cheers. Now, I have been holding on for hope that Frostmoth will become good. And Inteleon might be the best way to play Frostmoth, in my humble opinion. So you got ourselves Inteleon VMAX, 320 HP VMAX Pokemon with 2 attacks. Hydro Stomp, a little bit disruptive. You know, you may put an energy attach from your opponent's active Pokemon back into their hand. A little bit of disruption. But Max Bullet is the main reason we play this card. Don't get it twisted. 160 to the active and 60 to the bench. One of your opponent's bench Pokemon, right? So, here's your idea. Frostmoth decks gain 2 things. The first thing is Escape Rope, and that helps us a lot in this deck, because basically what we don't want to do, we want to be as efficient with our damage as possible. So if we don't need to hit our opponent's active for 160, you know, let's say they only have 60 health left, for example, we can use Escape Rope, push them out the active, and then, you know, finish them off with a 60 bench knocks so we can be as efficient as possible, okay? Telescopic Sight lets us increase that bench damage from 30 to 90, provided we're hitting into our opponent V or GX. And yeah, we also get Level Ball as Frostmoth players as well, which lets us search out both pieces of our Frostmoth nicely. Worth noting, we should actually be playing the Shining Legend Snom here, not that one, so ignore that. But yeah, Level Ball lets you search the Frostmoths as well, so... Inteleon, I'm waiting. The only problem with this though, a lot of people will be playing Mew now to stop GMAX Rapid Flow, so that's a little bit scary. But yeah, Inteleon. Right, now I need some convincing on this next step. I see a lot of people hype it, so let's have a look. We got ourselves Kingdra, stage 2 Pokemon, 150 HP with the ability Deep Sea King, which is a pretty cool ability. Like, let's not get it twisted. When this is your active Pokemon, it's knocked out from damage from your opponent's Pokemon. You can move any amount of water energy from that Pokemon to this Pokemon. So basically, when your active gets knocked out from damage, you can just move all energy attached to your active to this. So here's the idea. We can basically just essentially throughout the game just build up Kingdras with like 4 energy, right? And then, you know, pile on some more with Frostmoth. And when we get to the sort of 8-9 energy range, our opponent can't take them out of play because of this ability. So then we start taking one shots, an ideal world, because Aqua Burst does 40 for each energy attached to this Pokemon. Sounds good on paper, but stage 2 pops, right? But that's the idea. You got stuff like Rose to help keep us ticking over. Frostmoth lets you just throw energies around willy-nilly. Could be good, might not be good. Could be fun, you know, could be cheap. So give it a go, see if you like it. Now here's a Rapid Strike deck that could be pretty cool on paper. We've got ourselves Luxray. That artwork is pretty beast, don't get it twisted. Our main attack here though is Scar Strikes. Pretty cool name. For 1 electric, 1 colorless, you do 100 damage, and if your opponent's active has damage on them already, do an extra 100. Now worth noting though, Rapid Strike energy does not fulfill electric cost. It only fulfills water and fighting, so you cannot use those in this deck. But here's the idea. We're going to abuse Luxio with the top entry. So basically, if you top deck it for the turn, you can put it straight onto your bench. So we have stuff like Oranguru to help us with that. And we're just going to try and be a real cheap, efficient stage 2 deck where we're doing 200 damage as often as possible. Again, and I think with the Luxio, we can be pretty consistent here. So, you know, give it a go. We've got Zigzagoons to help get those damage in play with our Scoop Up Nets as well. And Speed Energy is always nice as well. Tapu Koko to cheat a little bit of extra energy as well. So there's Luxio Rapid Strike. Give it a go. Now, Mad Party is a deck that I absolutely despise, but, you know, it does actually gain a lot of stuff. And number one, it gains these Urshifu matchups that are all weak to Psychic. And obviously, Poltergeist is a Psychic type. But it also gains Level Ball, which lets you search out pretty much the whole deck outside of Galarian Mr. Rhyme, right? So massive help there. Number one, consistency. And number two, really good matchups. And maybe that's all Mad Party needs. Obviously, Mad Party does 20 for each Pokemon in a discard pile that has the Mad Party attack. So if you have 3 Mad Partiers in the bin, you do 60. Poltergeist lets you discard a Pokemon with Mad Party in the name to draw 2 cards. And that's the idea, really. You know, you can attack with Bunnelby for a Twin Energy. You can attack with Poltergeist for a Twin Energy or triple. You can't attack with the Dene, though, so you put them straight in the bin. And you can put Galarian Mr. Rhyme straight in the bin as well. So, yeah. Mad Party could actually be pretty good now. Maybe I have to play it. Wow. Okay, our next deck is Galarian Mr. Rhyme with that awesome ball juggling attack. For a Twin Energy, you do 10 plus 40 for each card you discard from your hand that has the name Ball, basically. So if you discard 3 Great Balls, you do 4, 8, 12, 130 damage. I think that's right. Yeah, that's right. So here's the idea. We play so many ball cards. We play some Cherish Balls. We play some Great Balls. We play some Level Balls. We play some Pokeballs. You know, we play some Quick Balls. We've got a whole load of damage to go there. And we have this Yamper. That's going to help us really keep ticking over. When you bench this Pokemon, you can search your discard pile for a Pokeball card and a Great Ball card and put them straight into your hand. So here's the idea. With Scoop Up Nets and Ball Guy, which actually get 3 different items with the word ball in them, we can essentially turn this ball juggling attack into, you know, quite scary. So yeah, that's the idea. We play some Twin Energies, we play some 3Cs because Mr. Rhyme is evolved. And, you know, or Corey lets us see cards, Ball Guy lets us see stuff, Burkeeper just lets us draw cards as well. And then just, you know, between Yampers and just Ball Guy and all the balls we have in the deck, we hit some pretty big numbers. So there's going to be some good highlight moments of this deck for sure, let me tell you. Now, when I first saw Necrozma V, I was a little bit underwhelmed, but then actually looking at the deck that Rare Candy put up, I actually am a little bit more sold. So let's have a look. Necrozma V is a basic Pokemon with 220 HP with 2 attacks. Prismatic Raid does 20 to the active and 20 to two of your opponent's benched Pokemon. It's making this could actually be pretty good in a Cat-A-Day deck for that spread. But in Special Laser, for 2 Psychics and a Curse, you do 100 plus 120 if have any special energy attached. So 220 for 3 is not bad. So here's the idea. That's good against everything, right? And against everything else, we play Aurora Energy, some Colored Energies, and Porygon Z, so we can attach them. So against Fighting Weak stuff, we can use Rhyperior. Against Psychic Weak stuff, we can use Gengar Mimi with the Horror House and the Poltergeist. Against Water Weak stuff, we use Milotic. Against stuff on the bench, we use Cramorant. If we had to discard them for every reason, we can use Ditto to get them back. This is basically like a counter box, you know, counter weaknessy type deck. And Porygon Z lets you throw around and attach as many special energies as you like in the turn. So could be pretty fun. I'm very partial to Porygon Z decks, let me tell you. So this could get quite fun, baby. Jeez. So you've seen Orbeetle VMAX a little bit with Rapid Strike Urshifu, but I actually think it could be good enough on its own now in the combination with the Escape Ropes. So we know what Eerie Beam does by now, right? If it's in the active spot, you can put 1 damage on all your opponent's Pokemon. Then G-Max Wave for 1 Grass, 1 Colorless, you do 50 plus 50 for each energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon. Here's the idea. With switches, Escape Ropes, Dolls, we can just be a real big irritant, essentially, right? And then with Pheromosa Buzzwole, we can take extra prizes with the Beast Game Jax attack, which does for 1 for 50. But if it knocks something out with this attack, you can take an extra prize card. So 4 offered Tag Team or VMAX and stuff like this. So that's actually pretty scary. And Escape Rope was one of the cards that this deck was sort of missing, because you only have 4 switch and 1 retreat right per turn. Escape gives you some more ways to just maneuver around the board, get as many eerie beams off into in a 1 turn as possible. Mr. Mime stops, you know, Jirachi's getting scooped up. Mimikyu turns off GX abilities. And you're just in for a pretty fun time, and Gorman does, as you see loads of cards as well. So I'm a big fan of Orbeetle VMAX for sure. This could be quite fun. Now, Pikorom's one of those decks where it's been on the chopping block for a while, but it's had a resurgence being one of the best decks in format. Now, with all these fighting decks, you know, knock on the door, this might be time for the Pikorom to either adapt, or it could be time for Pikorom to go. Until then, no. Until we know the answer for sure, I think you have to place at least Mewtwo's in some capacity so you can hit them for psychic weakness. But outside of that, you're still a very good deck, even if you are getting knocked on the door with weakness a little bit, because Stamp, Paralysis is with like hammers as well. It's still a ridiculously strong strategy that just because you're getting hit for weakness doesn't mean your opponent can just, you know, like single laugh at you, because you can win the game from this Paralysis Stamp combo. And yeah, apart from that, pretty much a standard Pikorom deck that you'd see now. It doesn't really gain a whole lot from Battle Star Wars, apart from, I'd say, the almost mandatory Mewtwo and Mew at this point. One thing you might want to put into your Pikorom though is the new Tapu Koko VMAX. VMAX Pokemon 320 HP with the max shock attack, which does 180 for 3. And if you have more prize cards left in your opponent's active is now paralyzed. So auto paralysis you always have to look at, you know. Here's the idea. Basically, your opponent KOs Boltund or, you know, KOs Pikorom for whatever reason. You can then Stamp, Paralysis, Hammer, and you still got the Mewtwo and Mew to hit those psychic weak stuff as well. So, you know, is this actually the best way to play Pikorom? I'm not sure, but auto Paralysis is never a bad thing. I think you always have to at least give it a go, right? Another way to play Tapu Koko VMAX is a standalone deck where you use stuff like Electrode to blow himself up, go down on prizes, but attach 2 energies to your VMAX and auto paralysis your opponent, right? Now with this version though, we're going to be using Omastar. Basically, if you have fewer Pokemon in play than your opponent can't play items from their hand, right? There's the idea. So we paralyze them and they can't play Switch. That's the idea. Now we're going to use Pokemon Research Lab to help get those Omanyte into play. You don't really want to be bothering with fossils. So what Pokemon Research Labs do, basically try and find it on your first turn, use it, and then you can put Omanyte on the bench, and then next turn you can just evolve them. That's the idea. So Electrode lets you attach energies, Omastar stops your opponent from moving around, Tapu Koko paralyzed, I should say. Could be pretty fun. Now worth noting, the way we're going to try and bomb rush this Pokemon Research Lab is we number 1 play a 3 count of it, but play 3 tag calls and then 2 Gus Hallers as well. So what is that? 6, 7, 8 outs to that Research Lab turn 1. Pretty high to me. Okay, so we've got ourselves another single strike heavy hit here. We've got ourselves Primeape, stage 1 Pokemon, 120 HP, the awesome attack, Steaming Mad Strike. For 2 energy, you do 50 for each one of your bench Pokemon that has damage counters on it. So here's the idea. We're using Spirit Tomb with the building Spite ability, where it lets you put damage on itself, right? 1 per turn. We'll use Jinx in combination with some Scoop Up Net so we can, you know, move that damage around. And then we've got Houndoom, which also lets you put damage, you know, onto either active Primeape or, you know, bench stuff with its single strike raw ability. So that's the idea. So basically, Steaming Mad Strike in combination with Dojo and then the single strike energy, you can start to be getting numbers. You know, a 1 prize that has no right for 2 energy to be hitting. You know, threatening tag teams and knocking on the door of VMAXs as well. So that's the idea of this deck. We can actually use stuff like a Bruno in here as well, because Bruno's really good for 1 prize decks. Where you shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 4 cards. But if one of your Pokemon was knocked out last turn, you can draw 7 instead. So that's the idea. Earn a Vitality, let's just get as many of these strong energies back, and Houndoom plucks them out for us. So yeah, we've got ourselves Primeape there. Right, now we've mentioned that EXP shares getting a reprint, right? And I think Amazing Rares are some of the biggest beneficiaries of that, right? So let's have a look at Wishram Amazing Rare. Basic Pokemon, 120 HP with the amazing Blaze attack, which is 270. So we're one shot in tag teams with this, right? But this awkward attack cost, right, of Fire, Electric, Dark. So what EXP share will let us do is essentially, you know, maintain some of its energies throughout the whole game. That's the idea, right? Fire energy can obviously be fulfilled with a Welder. The Dark energy you have to sort of manually attach, unfortunately, or Turbo Patch. And then the Electric energy can actually be fulfilled with Tapu Koko. So pretty cool deck for sure. Now because we're obviously playing Welder, we can obviously take some cheeky KOs with Spit Shot, And yeah, it's actually a really strong, heavy-hitting one-prize deck. Obviously, EXP share, in case you don't know. It's a tool card that's meant to attach one of your bench Pokemon. When your active gets knocked out, you can move one of the energy attached to it onto the bench Pokemon the EXP share is attached to. So the idea is, you know, help take the pressure off our turbo patches. We still got Welders to fall back on as well. So if we can just chain Amazing Blades enough times, we will win some games. So that's what this deck aims to do. Alright, so next up we got ourselves Rusty Zacian, which is basically Zacian with the Rusted Sword. Rusted Sword lets you do an extra 30 when it's attached to a Zacian V. Leon lets you do an extra 30 as well. And then we've got stuff like Birdkeeper, Windshard, Rowlet, which will let you just snipe. And we've still got stuff like more Wild to be in Irritant. We've got stuff like Zigzagoon and Nets, so we can, you know, get increased damage. But one thing all Zacian decks get is Escape Rope, obviously, and Escape Rope is really good for letting you chain Brave Blade, because sometimes it can be hard, you know, with only 4 switch in a deck to get Brave Blades off multiple times. Escape Rope helps us be more efficient at that. Alright, another ridiculous stage 1 heavy hitting deck that we get from Battle Stars is Salazzle. The really cool attack name, Decisive Roasting, or Deris, I don't know how to say that, it looks cool though. Basically, for 2 energy you do 90 damage for each special condition on your opponent's active Pokemon. So we actually have some real fun ways of getting those special conditions into play. Weeping Bell with the eerily named Dangerous Mucus. Wipe your nose, Weeping Bell. Dangerous Mucus. Basically, when you evolve this Pokemon from a Bellsprout to the Weeping Bell, you can leave your opponent's active burnt and poisoned. So, you know, under those circumstances, this roasting attack does 190 if you include the poison. But we have another way of actually getting an extra special condition on. So, leaving them at 270 damage in total with a Yell Horn, where both active Pokemon are confused. So, basically, if you Yell Horn, right, then switch out the active U-turn board into your new Salazzle, then evolve a Weeping Bell. For 2 energy, you're doing like 270 damage, which is the same as that Reshiram from earlier. So that's the idea. You got ourselves Kangaskhan just to help make some damage up with Rally Back. And then we got Giratina, because we're already playing the high net count anyway. Just rip off some energies while I've had it. You know what I mean? Rip off those Kotic energies from the metal types so we can you know, get crazy with it. So yeah, could be pretty strong. A really heavy hitter. If you're ever playing any like one prize events, this could be a good deck for you for sure. Right, now this will be a really fast one to do. Sandaconda is a stage 1 Pokemon, 130 HP, with the attack Big Sand Cannon, which does 60 by discarding the top 6 cards of your deck. You do 60 for each fighting energy, discarding that way. So you can see as a multiplier, that's actually getting a little bit scary, right? The problem with this is, though, you have to run like 28 energy for this to be useful. But one of the good things is you get use of this Glossor, which is really good, which has the call for family. Search your deck up to 3 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench. You can get out the Silicobra boys nice and early. And then you can use stuff like Greens to keep you ticking over, and Brot's Grit to put his energy straight back in the deck. So you can start doing some big Sand Cannon KOs. I've got my fingers crossed for you, baby. Okay, I got ourselves Tempo Zard up next, and this deck doesn't really gain a lot from Battle Stars, apart from Escape Rope, which I think you have to play if you want to respect Imperial V, which I think you have to. But I'll call this like Tempo Zard opportunistic box. Basically, we're going to take prizes fast and efficiently. Prime Rank, for example, you know, quickly take 2 prizes off the Denes. Persephone at any time is a sort of get out of jail free card, the Fireball Circus, which lets you discard 5 energies from your hand. For each one you do 50 damage. Reshiram Charizard is, you know, really good at knocking out tag teams and just being a wall in his own right. And yeah, that's one of the top tier decks now, and I see no reason why it wouldn't be moving forward. Okay, and our last deck here today is a little of an experimental one. I don't know how good it's really going to be, but we've got ourselves Tyranitar V. Now, you can use this in your Urshifu decks to slap those Dragapults for weakness, right? Because, you know, the single strike energies do provide dark cost. But here we're going to actually try and just use this single strike crush, which does 240 damage. But this card's the top 4 cards of your deck, which is actually diabolical. Don't get me started on that. But what we're going to try and essentially do is make this 240 into a higher number. So how are we going to do that? Got those Houndooms, obviously. And we've got the single strike energy cards. And basically, we're just going to try and creep this number as high as we can. You know, we've got 230 HP basic, you know. And you've got Spirit Tombs to help, you know, shore up any damage that Tyranitar misses. Capture energies will help us get Houndours out. Hiding energies gives us someone with free retreat as well. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Tyranitar, and I hope that, I'm sure we can make it work. Come on, buddy, let's get our brains together and make this work, yeah? So if you've made it this far, you're an OG. Put Tokyo Drift in the comments so I know you're a real one. Again, if you got this far, you don't know where to go. Find those deck lists. Check the spreadsheet out in the description, but they'll all be there waiting for you to copy and paste in TCG, okay? I'm looking to make a big forward push with content for Battle Styles, so smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.